Hi, I'm Will from Tested.
Norm from Tested.
Norm, Windows Phone 8 has been out, well, for a few weeks now.
Yeah, you have a Windows 8 phone, so let's go into an in-depth discussion about the phone, the OS.
The OS. We don't care about the phone right now. We're just talking about the OS. Because on the surface, it looks like not much has changed. But actually, when you dig in, then you see that a ton of little enhancements, and then some behind-the-scenes stuff big behind-the-scenes stuff has changed.
And when you say change, you mean from last year, year and a
2
half
years
now,
ago.
2 years,
Yeah.
the Windows Phone 7, 7.5, which I
so
have
that's
on.
a Focus. It's
a
the
Samsung
original,
Focus.
basically, one of the original Windows Phone 7 phones. So there's been a couple of iterations between them. Mango came out. This is, of course, Windows Phone 8. It's a new kernel. That's the big change.
Yeah, and you're running it, just get out of the way, you're running it on almost a pre-production model HTC 8X.
Yeah, so we got a box. The box said, this is a pre-production model, not for review. But it's for us to take a look at the OS and see what's changed.
So we can definitely talk about Windows Phone 8, but not HTC 8X. Now, Windows Phone 8, you said the kernel's changed. What does that mean for people who have this phone?
Well, we've talked about that a lot. It means that those people are boned, basically.
Yeah.
So apps that are written for this phone, the Windows Phone 8 phones, won't run on that phone. Some apps that are even written for Windows Phone 7 and 7.5 phones won't run on the Windows Phone 8 phone. It's basically, the change is that this uses the same core kernel now as Windows RT and Windows 8, the desktop versions of the OS. So it should be a good thing long term. It's bad right now for people who bought Windows Phone 7s.
Okay. But there's also a bunch of hardware compatibility that's good that's changed. So
one of the key things about the Windows Phone platform is that it's a lot, like there's basic hardware spec is set by Microsoft. So they say, here are the screen resolutions that we're going to support. Here's the type of CPU that we're going to support. Here's the modems that we're going to support.
Right,
all
so
of that kind of stuff.
back when Windows Phone 7 came out, while there were models from HTC and there was different companies and Samsung, they're basically the same hardware.
Yeah, the phones...
Same resolution screen.
Exactly.
Kind of low, to be frank, resolution screen. I mean, the rendering was okay for the text, but they all use like the same amount of RAM and the same processor, that single core Snapdragon, and it was very standardized. And so companies that do interesting tricks, like there was that surround phone that had the really big speaker on the bottom.
They had
really
gimmicks.
Terrible gimmicks.
So there's a couple of different resolutions supported. The old 800 by 480, which was the core resolution of that phone, is of course still supported for lower end phones. This generation phone also supports 16 by 9 and 16 by 10 HD resolution. So I think it's 1280 by 720 and 1280 by 800.
All right, which is
so
pretty comparable
common,
to modern smartphones from at least a year ago. Like the Galaxy Nexus on Android was 1280 by 720.
Right.
And now we have phones that are higher resolution than that.
Right.
On Android, even up to 1920 by 1280. This is 1280 by 720 or
This
1280.
is the 16 by 9 aspect ratio.
And it'll go as big as 1280 by 768.
800, I think.
768, which is
768, you're right. That's a
12
16
by 10. 16 by 10.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's, for most phones, it's pretty practical.
It's a little fatter.
It's all you need. I don't think you need a phone that has a 1920 by 1200 resolution. The iPhone has a 1236 by
1366 by
1366 by
480 times 2, 960.
960.
There we go.
On the bottom, 640 on the bottom. I think that's really as much pixel density as you need.
I mean, if you want to increase the resolution further, you need to make the phone bigger. So then you're looking at going from something that fits comfortably in your pocket. And this phone is pretty big,
and
just the size and shape.
Yeah.
But it does fit. It's not uncomfortable in your pocket.
You're not talking about just the phone, the screen size.
I'm talking about the physical dimensions of the phone.
Because it needs then a bigger battery,
right,
for the backlight.
Yeah.
And I think the perfect balance right now that we found with current battery technology and current display technology is about a 4.5 inch phone.
4 to 4.5 inch phone seems pretty good to me.
At that 720p resolution.
Exactly. Screen's different. The RAM is fixed now. The storage, the OS supports SD cards now. Previously, like that Focus and some of the other early Windows phones supported SD cards, but it was a weird kind of support. You had to put the SD card in. Once you did, it was permanently paired with that device.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't take it out and use it in another phone. You couldn't swap it out. If you wanted to change SD cards, if you wanted to go from a 16 gig to a 32 gig, then you had to basically format your entire phone, and that was formatted as part of the OS partition. It doesn't work that way now. Now it's just supplemental storage. I didn't get to test it because the 8X doesn't actually have an SD card slot. But
so that will
theoretically, in the
on
future,
the hardware.
Yeah.
On some of the phones that will have a micro SD card extra one, you can expand all the way to 64 gigs.
Yeah, so let's cut down and take a look at the phone now. Multi-core processors are supported now, so all of the launch phones are using Snapdragon's dual-core Snapdragon processor.
Which with support for quad-core in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the phones have NFC as well. I don't believe this one does, but I think the Lumia 920 does. Let's talk about the OS, because that's really what we're here to talk about. One of the core features that I'm really excited about as a dude who takes screenshots of phone OSs, you can take screenshots now. It's just like on iOS. You press the power button and the home screen, and you can take a screenshot of whatever you want. I mean, I don't know if normal people do that a lot. I don't know what that phone number is. Oops. But I take screenshots a lot on my phone. I find it's kind of useful.
And it just saves to your camera roll.
Yeah, it'll show up.
Full resolution.
I'll show you my Photos app. It just pops up right here in my camera roll. Or not. Is there a screenshots roll? Albums. Here we go.
And there you go.
Screenshots. Boom. I just took some screenshots. You just saw that screenshot get taken. That's the second one because it said saving the screenshots. The start screen is the big change, though. I mean, let's be frank. On your Windows Phone 7 phone, you'll note, I'm holding this one up here, there's basically two size tiles.
Right.
And it's kind of fixed on an app-by-app basis. So some of these you can make big, and some of them you can't. Like your Xbox Live tile, I think you can make big. Maybe not. But they're either small, mid-sized squares, I would say, or double-wide squares. On Windows Phone 8, you actually have three different sizes, and you can change them on an app-by-app basis.
Right, depending on...
So I can make bigger,
what you think
smaller...
is more important. It's like not only changing the touch targets, which is useful because you want your mail and maybe your Twitter or your calendar to be big, but also the ambient information.
Yeah.
So, for example, for your calendar app right there,
so here's
you have
my
it on
calendar.
The mid-sized one. If it's small, it shows
just today. Yeah.
Right? It's the 5th.
Oops. And if it's big, it shows a couple of lines of information about your next appointment.
Right.
So we're recording the podcast tomorrow at 11 a.m.
And this all depends on what app developers want to do with the app.
Yeah, so some apps are really good at supporting it. The Microsoft stuff obviously is better than others. This is the number of friends I have online and what they're playing right now on Xbox Live.
And it's dynamic, so you even see like little icons. And,
oh, yeah.
And it's not just text.
It'll bounce in and out. That's my buddy icon. That's my avatar. Maybe that may be Narkiller's avatar. I don't know for sure. No, that's me. Flynn Lives. That's me. This is the Weather Channel app directly underneath it. It's showing currently right now it's 61 degrees outside and rainy. I don't know why it flips to the map. Some of these choices are really dopey. It's like they felt like they had to do something else. And here you go. We should talk about why my hands are super orange also. I'm not jaundiced or anything weird like that. We're white balanced to the screen, not necessarily
want to make the screen look
world.
nice. We don't really care about your hands looking nice.
So what you're seeing right now is what the screen looks like for us.
And then so you can arrange them 3 different sizes.
You can do all sorts of arrangements.
Even the small size, you feel like it's easy to, with one hand, to hit those buttons?
I find that the small size is stuff that I don't use that often, and that worked really well. The small size, the lack of ambient information takes away one of the big benefits of the OS. However, a lot of apps, especially third-party stuff, does a really poor job with ambient information. So I think that Weather Channel
like
implementation...
For example, Twitter.
Yeah.
It's just that Twitter icon.
It's a complete waste of space.
It should be like newest @tweets to you.
Yeah, or at least the number of mentions or something.
What happens when you make that full?
It just is a really big burn.
That's a big waste of space.
Yeah. That stuff's kind of a bummer. The email, oops, don't want to go into that. I try not to be a slave to email these days, but if you make it bigger, then you'll get the number of unread messages and stuff like that. It takes a minute to populate sometimes.
There are also widgets on the lock screen.
There are widgets on the lock screen. This works a lot like Windows 8 desktop does. So this is showing my most recent calendar and the time and the date. Nothing super confusing there. Lock screen also supports Bing images now. So you can have dynamic lock screen. It'll change every time you log onto the phone. I actually don't like that. I like my phone,
You like designing your phone.
It's not even that. It's that if I'm in a household where there's multiple phones and they're the same, I want to be able to turn it on and know if Gene and I have the same phone,
Right.
it's really confusing if we both have the same lock screen, because then who knows whose phone is which? And the worst thing in the world is to go to work.
You don't know your phone just by holding it, like the feel of your phone, the subtle, one has a.
Well, mine's white and hers is black, so it's easy. But if we both had blue
I'm
HTC
colorblind.
8Xs,
I don't see colors.
Okay.
Also, speaking of colors, there are colored tiles, and you have the white background here.
I actually find that the white background is kind of distinctive and nice.
This is a common misconception with LCD screens. People think that having a black background means that you will save battery, but no, it's the
well,
brightness.
That's true with OLEDs.
With OLEDs, but with LCDs.
Yeah, with LCDs, it's not at all true.
Turning at lower brightness will save you power, but having the same brightness, it doesn't matter if you have a black background or a white background, the backlight is still on.
Exactly.
And you're not it's all about readability.
So one of the things that kind of irks me about the platform in general is that they don't enforce these color tiles on third-party apps very well. So, for example, I changed my theme completely just then. Mm-hmm. Yet the Twitter icon is giant and blue and looks like a bird.
Well, it's part of their branding.
Branding exercise, I realize, but it's a little weird. And even the fact that the Xbox
owns
stuff
the
is
green
always
color.
Green, I don't get that. It's a little. I think that's a little weird.
Yeah, I think there are 21 different colors now you can change. It was much fewer on the.
Thank goodness there's more colors.
Yeah.
What color should I go to?
I think you should go with well, if you're going with the white background,
yeah,
you're gonna complement that with a nice cyan.
So you liked where I was before?
Yeah.
Are you saying I have good taste, Mr. Chan?
I think that the options force you to have good taste.
You think I lucked into it? Yes. Okay.
On a phone, just like on a tablet, the big thing I'm going to do, there are two big things you do: mail and browsing.
Yeah. So
the mail client here, it's pretty much the same as it was on a Windows Phone 7.5.
It's refined. They link email boxes. You can set up a unified mailbox if you want. They do actually a much better job of that, and they have since Windows Phone 7 of allowing you to customize that. So if you have, say, 3 work accounts that you have to check, you can actually link those 3 work accounts into one unified inbox, but leave your personal email separate and all that.
I mean, if you look at Windows Phone 7.5, you have the list of emails, you have the conversations grouped together. Yeah. It looks relatively the same.
Well, the screen size is a little bit bigger. They're using the extra resolution pretty well. But more or less, I don't think this was a bad app before. I don't think it's substantially improved.
I don't think Microsoft is going to change it. I think they're very happy with the way they designed their mail.
Yeah, well, I think the thing I would say is I think that this is much more usable than the similar design style is on Windows 8. So I think that on a big giant screen, the kind of Metro stuff with using the fonts to separate the different areas is really a waste of space in a lot of cases.
And you didn't have any problem adding accounts, whether it was Gmail.
No, so I'll show you that. It's kind of interesting. They do a pretty good job of supporting multiple accounts. I think it supports, like, you can add Facebook, Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook.com, Exchange, Pop and IMAP, all the normal suspects. One thing that I did notice is when you add a Google account, it has the same problem that iOS has, where you have problems adding multiple calendars that are attached. Like if you have 3 shared calendars that you really use a lot attached to your Gmail account, you can't necessarily add those. So that kind of stuff's a little bit frustrating. The one thing I have to say about the tiles, and we kind of touched on this before, they're not particularly useful. I mean, the calendar one I use a fair amount.
It's not just that they're not useful, but it's very easy to see how they could have been much more useful without too much more work.
I think that the problem is it makes the tiles very difficult to read. Like, I know that this is my mail tile here because it has a giant email icon. I know this is my Twitter tile. The calendar, telling the difference between these 2 calendars, one is the clock and one is the calendar.
But both have like small numbers on the bottom right.
Yeah, they both have the date, or I guess they don't have the date. One has the date, one has the time. It's a little bit confusing, and it doesn't read as well as actual icons do, which is something, after using this more, I was a little bit surprised by. So, I almost think that the way to do this is to make the grid of icons just like you would on iOS or Android for all but a very select number of apps that you want to have frequently updated. No, I'm saying as a user,
right.
The thing to do is to make the giant grid of icons. I haven't done
one by ones and maybe a few 2x2s.
Yeah, so pull out the weather, pull out the Xbox, pull out the stuff that actually updates with interesting information, like the calendar, frankly. We should talk about that a little bit too. The lack of shared calendars on Google and some of the other providers makes this almost useless for me because of the way we actually use calendars in this office. But I mean, it's a updated version. It uses the
I really do. I like that
better.
they show you, in the month view, it's not just like dots for the items. Actually, you see the text.
Super small.
But you can't, it's not accelerated zoom. Yeah.
What do you mean? It's yeah, no finger zoom. Yeah. The agenda view I find is pretty useful. But again, as you see, the stuff that's on here isn't a third of our actual calendar stuff because I couldn't put the shared calendars on. Yeah, so I mean that stuff. That's going to be different depending on how you use the phone. If you're a hardcore Exchange user, if you use Exchange at the office, it's actually quite good.
Yeah, so. I imagine a lot of people getting Windows Phone 8 phones might be either Windows Phone 7 owners upgrading who are already used to that system, or a lot of people who are their first smartphone because it's relatively affordable. So it really is then changing your use case to what the limitations of the software is.
Exactly.
As opposed to it's working the way you kind of want it to work.
Well, or working the way you're accustomed to it working. Yeah. Which in our case.
Which a lot of people are using BlackBerries or even, old iPhones or something switching over. They'll have to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
So now you open the web browser.
Let's talk about browser. So this is a version of IE10. Its heritage is very similar to the desktop version of IE10.
Which is on the Microsoft Windows RT.
Windows RT. It seems to be much more stable than the one that was on RT just from limited use. I find that browsers, unless they're phenomenal, are really hard to use on the phone these days. This one does a pretty good job. It's a little slow. I should rephrase. I perceive it as a little slow, and I think that's because of the way IE renders the page rather than because of any actual performance differences.
It's nice that while it's still loading in the background, you actually can interact.
Yeah, and it's smooth scrolling. They do a really nice job of sizing content to the page. So if I go to, let's go to ours. So we have a design that's designed to take advantage of thin phone displays. I don't think ours does this, so I'm going to tap in here and see it automatically sizes. Well, actually, they are doing reactive now. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
That was with the redesign.
Or let's go to the full site. Here we go.
There it goes.
So you can tap in. They do the tap in to zoom thing, which I think is incredibly useful. The browser, the actual scrolling performance, I think, is better than iOS in a lot of cases. Not probably as good as Chrome on Android.
Yeah, I think this is the same situation we've run into with a lot of mobile browsers. It was that WebKit and whatever renderers, all other renderers have reached a point where, and the processors, to be frank, have reached a point where we're not seeing slowdowns in actual rendering, but it's really the feature set that's limited.
Right, so it's things like hitting touch targets on Reddit. So let's go to Reddit, because this is always fun, and see if you can tap give me a link to tap, and I will tap it.
All right, you should hit that one. Oh, God, I can't even read it right now.
I'll zoom in some.
Yeah, hit the awkward penguin one.
Okay. Do you want me to get the Advice Animal subreddit, or do you want me to hit the big link?
Try this Advice Animal subreddit.
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Third try. Is it actually going to go, though?
Nope.
I should consider using Reddit's mobile interface. That's probably really good advice. Yeah, so this is the problem.
Yeah.
The touch targets are good. This is better than a lot of mobile browsers with the touch targets I found. It's one of those usability things that Microsoft is traditionally pretty good at, is testing that stuff until it works well. It's not. It could be a lot better still, especially when you're using a full web page.
The other feature stuff in terms of tab syncing and user accounts, it's limited to IE.
Yeah, if you don't use IE on the desktop, which means you're a desktop Windows user, you're not going to get any of that stuff. I don't even know if they support it for desktop Windows users. There's no version of Chrome or even Opera or stuff like that available for Windows Phone 7, Windows Phone 8 right now.
And that's something you also demonstrated when you were browsing and doing email is the keyboard.
Yeah.
And we like the keyboard a lot in Windows Phone 7.
So there's nothing new. Nothing really has changed. I'll start off with that. I mean, it's incrementally better for sure. It is my favorite keyboard on phones. Especially with the new taller screens that you're afforded by the Windows Phone 8 resolutions, it is a much better resolution.
Which is always very surprising for new Windows Phone users because the keys look really narrow. So but the touch arc is actually really, really good.
Yeah,
and
so
there is some predictive touch keywords.
I'm having a little bit of trouble here because of the angle I'm holding the phone, so you guys can see it. But the nice thing you have here is the keyboard's the same height, basically, same height of the screen, but you have a lot more actually space to work in up here, even with the predictive bar here. So let me start typing something. I'll do the old quick brown fox. If people were smart, they would.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, and if you type, it'll just pick up the first one. The first. Well, hold on. It's just a good keyboard. I think this is the best of all of the keyboards that I've used on phones. If I was making my ultimate Franken phone, it would be bits and pieces from different OSs. The keyboard would be the one here. It comes with a bunch of smiley faces too, so you don't have to install some weird emoji keyboard if you want to do that stuff. There's voice search now. I haven't, or voice dictation. I'm using my voice to type. I haven't tried this at all, so I don't know how it works. I'm pressing go now. I'm using my voice to type. I haven't tried that also, know how it works. I'm trusting go now. And then you type in here and it'll give you a bunch of choices. So even on words that you typed correctly, you can always go back and tap. So rather than do the small X thing or having to erase and retype it on Android, you can always, if you were one letter off, you can always go back and fix. It's easier to fix than on other OSs.
Their
text
grabby
selection
things
are also
is
very
really good.
Yeah, like this, they've really dialed in the text entry with the on-screen keyboard. I really think better than anyone else, to the point that I didn't feel the need to explore the voice options, which is kind of unusual.
All right.
You want to talk about cameras?
Yeah, so other thing, email, web browsing, and photography.
Yeah.
The camera lenses will obviously be different. The sensors will be different between the hardware. But one thing I really did not like about Windows Phone 7 is that there was no touch to focus without snapping a picture. So when you tap the screen, it focuses on that point, but unlike in iOS and Android, it focuses and then immediately takes a picture.
You mean like that?
Just like that. So you can't choose your focus point and then hold on to that, and then adjust your framing. It just snaps a picture. It's relatively fast. They've added some new features in.
I'm on the front-facing camera now.
Yeah.
The back camera is a little bit faster. I mean, that's a hardware-specific choice.
There you go. See, you focus, and then it automatically chose to use a
flash
and took a picture. I still don't like that, and right now, I don't think there are any third-party camera apps that are good yet.
I didn't get into that stuff. One thing that they did add was filters. I can show you that stuff. They call them lenses. Basically, oops, that's not the one I want.
No,
So
they have little plugins called lenses. Yeah. So, for example, you can tie in Bing Vision, which is like scanning barcodes.
This is one of the things I actually don't like about Microsoft. Tends to give everything a name. Sometimes they're clever, sometimes they're not. We'll talk about rooms and groups in a minute, because that's really confusing. The difference between lenses and the photo enhancer stuff. Photo enhancer is basically Instagram style filters, which are now built into the OS. So I can take a picture that I just shot, like this one.
Artsy picture of jeans.
And you want to do my artsy macro shot of the jeans? I can do that instead. Look at that seam. Look at the fuzz.
Look at my eye. Look
so
at
I can
clouds.
auto enhance.
Look at the tip of my airplane.
I poop in here. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, there it goes. That's the one up. High contrast.
You want high contrast?
Lo-fi. Give me lo-fi.
Do we have lo-fi?
Where's Sierra?
I don't see lo-fi. Basic frame.
Share 5 likes.
Bleak.
Oh, that's very bleak.
Yeah, vintage.
Oh, they're not very good.
That's a whole good. Yeah, I mean, they're filters. They're terrible. They're just like always. These are no worse or no better than any other filters. I still think filters are pretty dumb.
Auto enhance.
No effect. Auto enhance is just high contrast with a little bit of muting.
So save.
So it'll save a separate picture to your camera roll, and then you can go out and share it to your social networks.
Yeah, and because there's SkyDrive integration, it will just automatically sync to SkyDrive if you're on Wi-Fi in full resolution.
Look, there is my saved pictures of my jeans leg. So we should talk about that. The share stuff works a lot like iOS. I mean, a lot like Windows 8 desktop, where any of the apps that you have installed that have a share contract can basically go out and share that. So I have Twitter installed. I can share this to Twitter. I do it from inside the phone app, which is kind of nice. Hey, these are my jeans. I also like that the keyboard picks up the context of the app that it's in. So when you're on dark apps, it gives you a dark keyboard. When you're on light apps, it gives you a light keyboard. There's a lot of little touches about this OS that are really nice. Yeah, okay, why not? SkyDrive my Twitter photos. And now I just posted a Twitter message, so you guys can enjoy that later. Do we want to talk about cameras anymore, or you?
No, I mean the camera stuff will all depend on the hardware. Lumia ones are supposed to have better load light, but the software is still limited by the OS.
The lenses stuff is kind of interesting. I don't think I have a QR code or a tag or a book or a CD or DVD here, but it basically works like Red Laser or any of those other apps on Android or iOS.
Yeah.
It's also available on the basic Google camera. Also has kind of
Google
barcode
goggles
scanning.
built in.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
So there's also, like you said, some of these phones have NFC because you can use them as your wallet.
Yeah, do you want to look at Wallet? I disabled it because it was profoundly useless, I felt. But it may be more useful with other stuff. I think the idea here is that you can put things like your loyalty cards in, so your Safeway Club card. I got as far as
Why do you put your Safeway Club
card?
card?
So
Why
you
not
can
use
just-
your phone number
so
or
you
the
can-
local Safeway phone number?
Well, my Safeway Club card, I made up the phone number when I signed up for it because I didn't want them to really know anything about me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You should, there's an online
415-666-87779.
of
If you want to use my
Safeway
Safeway Club card, go nuts.
Safeway Club card numbers.
415-656-8779.
It really, it's just to track what you're buying.
Yeah.
So use a discount, use the
Sweet
generic
deals.
one. Yeah.
So one of the big things that you use your phone for, of course, is Maps.
Yep.
Previously, a Windows Phone had Bing Maps integrated, which I thought were quite good. They were pretty good at context-aware, like local stuff. So if you would search for coffee, they would give you Starbucks and Blue Bottle and Ritual and all the kind of different coffee shops instead of some sort of weird coffee roast or something like that.
And it was a very responsive interface.
Yeah, it was not bad at all. I don't know if they were. I think they were bitmap maps, which were all the hotness back then. With Windows Phone 8, Microsoft has replaced Bing Maps with Nokia Maps, which was pretty much universally regarded as better. I've been using Nokia Maps. I think it's quite good. I don't think it's quite as good as Google Maps, but I think it's far and away better than Apple Maps. Apple Maps is okay when you put in an address. If you search for a business, God only knows where it's going to send you.
So the data set is a little better.
The data set is much better. The responsiveness to the Maps app is quite good. You can zoom all the way in and kind of get all the way down to like satellite view. So look, here's Brian and 18th. I'm going to go to our office actually. Here we are. We're the blue dot.
There
And
goes.
look, wave. Look up and wave, Norm. Yeah. So in that regard, it's quite good. The one thing that was really a big disappointment when they made this announcement that Nokia Maps was going to be the default map provider for Windows Phone 8, they also implied, they said that Nokia Drive would be an option as well. Nokia Drive is their turn-by-turn nav app.
Mm-hmm. It's what made one of the Lumia, one of the starting features of the Lumia.
It is one of the things that made the Lumia awesome. So unfortunately, that's a vendor choice, not a user choice.
So HTC chose not to include turn-by-turn directions.
HTC is working on a turn-by-turn solution. I feel like launching a phone without turn-by-turn nav at this point is kind of a mistake. I have to say, though, they do have foot directions. I don't know about transit directions because I haven't ridden the bus since I've been using this phone. But let's go. Where should we go? Let's go to Westfield Center. Westfield Center?
Westfield Center. Yeah.
I can't spell field. Okay, so we're going to Westfield Center, which is where Nordstrom's is.
It's actually called the Westfield Mall.
Wow, this is far away.
That is really far away. Can we walk there?
Yeah, let's get some directions.
It's in Cleveland.
Okay,
Let's go to Westfield Mall.
How long is it going to take to go to Cleveland? It's getting directions. See, directions are pretty fast. It's a 37-hour, 9-minute drive. Let's get walking directions. Oh, nope, too far. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, so this one is not smart enough to know that if you search, you want to find the Westfield Mall.
And just to be clear, this is when we say that the maps aren't quite as good, this is the stuff we're talking about. Right. It should have been smart enough to know, oh, Westfield, there's a Westfield much closer to us, like this one.
Yep. And that one is actually called San Francisco Center, but it's CTR.
Yeah. So why did that not work? I'm going to hit address. I'm going to get directions. So I can still get directions, just to be perfectly clear, but I can't get turn-by-turn nav. So it won't say turn left in 200 yards, that kind of business. It'll do walking directions. The walking directions were pretty good. San Francisco's an easy walking city, so there's not a whole lot of complexity here. I mean, you go up and then turn right. One other thing that I think is kind of neat is this local search stuff. So if you're someplace it's not as useful when you're in a city where you live, but if you're someplace unfamiliar, you're staying in a hotel or something, you have a little bit of time to go get food or go out and see the sights, you can hit this and it'll tell you what's near. And it sorts, I think it gives Yelp results in here.
Yeah, so it's the same as in Windows Phone 7.
It's the same concept. It's implemented a little bit better, it seems like. And then the see and do stuff, maybe they updated this with Windows 7.5. This is unfamiliar to me as a Windows Phone 7, but not Windows Phone 7.5 user. Is it the same list of stuff? No, it's
Well,
different
we're in a
stuff.
different location right now.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff seems neat. I find myself not really using it that much.
Unless you're in a new city. And also, the fact that it taps into Yelp, I think, is good, because it's not just any random database. Although, we did have a problem with the Windows Phone 8 directions. It said there was a pizza place close to us. Here, we're looking for food, and that place actually did not exist. So
Oh, it doesn't exist?
Does not exist.
Did you go looking for it?
I went looking for it.
Oh!
So I wouldn't trust their data set 100%.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, that place is ridiculously expensive. Deli board, 5 stars.
Oh, it's TripAdvisor, not Yelp. I apologize. I like Deli Board. I think that
1 star.
you just think it's too expensive. You're looking for calories per dollar, not
I'm not looking
taste
for
per
a
dollar.
$12 sandwich.
Hey, man.
America.
Every once in a while, a $12 sandwich is good. Norman Chan, man of the people. Yeah, if it weren't for the turn-by-turn directions thing, I'd be pretty stoked about Maps on this phone. I think it's a huge mistake not to launch turn-by-turn app. They've added some stuff to their People app as well. So People is kind of the hub for all of your social networks. One of the things that Windows Phone has always done is it kind of collates LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and I don't know, what other social networks do you use? Exchange, your contact list.
MySpace.
No, MySpace. All of that stuff gets hooked together into one massive people list. So this is all the people I know everywhere, on every platform that I ever have made a list on.
Okay.
It is...
But you want a good way to sort them.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So you can create these things called rooms.
Well, you can create 2 things. So you can create rooms and groups. I'm going to make a group first, because this is the simpler concept.
Yeah.
A group has been around since Windows Phone 7.5, I think. I'm going to call these duders.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do...
Are you going to have one called dudettes?
No, because duders can be female too.
Okay.
I'm going to put all the people that used to work with us at Whiskey. So I'm going to put Norman Chan, or I'm going to put a subset of them because I don't think I want to go through all of them. So there's Norm. To add another duder, I'll add Dave Snyder because he's the originator of the duder. Wait, hold on. No, that was right, Snyder. This is fascinating TV, I know.
But you can also, the point is made that you can do groups, and then you can also do these things called people or
Holy crap.
rooms.
Rooms. So the point is, rooms are they're basically a organizational scheme. So it'll pull all the social networks. It gives you a custom feed based on this room. I actually thought this was pretty useful because if you follow a bunch of people on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, sometimes the updates from people you actually care about get lost in with all the people that you went to high school with and you haven't talked to in 10 years. So in this regard, it's pretty good as a utility. You can mimic the same utility on Twitter and Facebook with lists, but this pulls all the people that use Facebook together with the people that use Twitter, and you can kind of respond to them in kind from there. I think it's a really useful feature. On the other hand, there's Rooms. So Rooms is touted as a pretty highbrow feature. The idea here is that you invite people to join a room.
Okay.
I've invited you and Joey into a tested room. And then they can interact with you whether they're on Windows Phone, iOS, Android, whatever. Now, what happens is you put in their phone number, you go to their contact, you put in their phone number, and then you got a text message, right?
Yes.
So what did the text message say?
It said to log into a website, create an account because I'm on iOS.
Did it seem appealing at all?
No, it was very, very poorly designed.
Okay, so to date, my success rate on getting people to join rooms, even when I said, hey, Norm, I'm sending you a room invite, would you join this, has been 0.
Yeah.
No one will join rooms.
It's not good at all.
I think the mechanism is that you sign up for an Exchange, you log into an Exchange account, basically, and then that gives you a shared calendar, a way to share photos and stuff like that. No one will do it. And because it's tied to a phone number, I wasn't able to fake it because it knows what my phone number is, and it knows it's not this. It knows that I'm not. It won't let you make a room with just yourself, basically. So, yeah, Rooms.
It's not a feature that you use or could see people using, unless you're in a family and you're all on Windows Phone 8.
I mean, I think I applaud the fact that they tried to make it accessible to people who are on Windows Phone 8. It needs to be much easier implemented. I mean, maybe if it's that you install an app and the app does the work for you.
It's the new Zune squirting.
I think it's probably theoretically more useful than Zune squirting, but they need to do a better job of explaining why you would want to do this, rather than just saying, hey, you've gotten this thing that looks like it might be spam from somebody who you may or may not know, but it's not the right phone number. Why don't you go create this account and go through a big hassle for something that's probably not going to be very useful ultimately?
So what else is different about Windows Phone 8?
One of the big things is that multitasking actually works right now. So I'm going to launch the Twitter app. Previously, when you multitask, it was kind of more like fancy app switching.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. Some apps save states, mostly Microsoft provided apps. But if you went back to the home screen, did something else for a little while, and then came back in, then you wouldn't get it wouldn't save state. The app would relaunch. So you activate multitasking by holding down the back button, go back, tap it on, and it'll be right back where you were. You come back in exactly the state.
So this was in Windows Phone 7.5.
Yeah, let's see 7.5. So this is the same app, same mode here. I'm going to go back into. Mail actually works because it's a Microsoft app. But if you go back into Spotify, it'll probably. Never mind. Let's pick something. Let's launch Twitter. It was up to third parties to support, and they didn't do a very good job of it a lot of times. So I'm going to go back, and we'll go back to Twitter, and voila, it works. Okay, well, this will be something that changed in 7.5. Or maybe they updated the Twitter app to support it properly.
Yeah, multitasking, still it works though, hold down the back button. And I do like that you can see, unlike in iOS, just the icons, you can actually see the state of all the apps.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And it's fast, so I find that's pretty good as well. So I'm back in my wallet again. That's fantastic. A couple other things. They introduced this thing called Kids Corner. It's kind of like the mode in
the Kindle.
The Kindle called Window Free, Window Panes. What's it called? It's called Kindle. I don't know. It's for kids. And I don't see my app to launch it right now. Oh wait, yeah, you do. You go from the lock screen.
Of course.
Yeah, from the lock screen. Well, because you're going to hand the phone to your kid, and then you just swipe into the site. It's called Kids Corner. It was Jessica Alba's favorite feature because they paid her to say that.
So this is
she's a well-known mom.
So this is just a limited version of Windows Phone 8, just the apps that you want the kids to use.
Exactly. So you basically say, hey, here's the stuff that I want to use. Anything that you can pin, I think, you can put up here. Although if you pin like a browser, then that's going to cause
Actually, I like
well.
this. I like it. You don't have to give it to kids. I think it works. Friends Corner also works. I would put like
Twitter or
browser. No, God, no. I wouldn't put Twitter.
Oh, why not?
Well, is it a separate account?
Yeah, you can have separate accounts.
Okay, so maybe Twitter or a browser. I would do browser and calculator.
That makes sense.
That's all my friends need to use on my phone.
That's it.
Calculator.
Maybe Companion, so they can look stuff up on IMDb.
Yeah, why do you need IMDb?
Well, so the problem with this though is it doesn't lock the phone. So if the phone's not locked, when you go back, when you start it back up again, then there's nothing keeping the kids locked into this place. So if you don't have a password on your phone or your kids know your phone password, then that's no good at all. They can't download and purchase things, which is a good thing, I would say. It seems a little bit more limited than Amazon's implementation. Amazon is building a whole bunch of services around that as well, so maybe that'll come later with Microsoft. But it's there, and I mean, it seems moderately useful. Swipe to the side, Kids Corner. I think there's only one Kids Corner account. There's only one Kids Corner account per phone right now. I would assume that'll probably change in the future if people actually use this.
Yeah, most other things in Windows Phone 8, it's really similar to Windows Phone 7.5. If you've used that media playback, it's still very much that. Even though Zune doesn't exist anymore, that Zune interface, they want you to go into their store, their video store, their music store.
Yeah, we should take a look at that because it's kind of interesting. It's basically just a reskinned Zune
Xbox
software.
Music.
Yeah, it's the same as it was before. If you go in here, you can subscribe, you can buy music.
Podcasts?
Podcasts, it's interesting. I had a hard time finding podcasts. They're still in the store, but you actually have to search for them. So if I want to search for this is,
So it's not listed as a separate category.
Test. Not this id, that's a different thing. But it's in search results. So you go right there and it pops up. You can subscribe. Once you do that, then it'll download automatically. That stuff works pretty well. I didn't use it on this phone until today. It's better than what's built into iOS and Android.
Yeah. Not much discovery, though.
Yeah, you have to know what you're looking for, because the only way you're going to find it is if you're searching.
This is only podcasts you should be listening to anyway.
That's fair enough. the SmartGlass stuff is built in now, I'm sorry, you download an app from the App Store, and then you can use it to integrate with the Xbox. It works the same way as it does on iOS or Android, wherever else they have SmartGlass apps. It's fine.
Right. If you're playing something on your phone, you can throw it to the TV, the Xbox.
Yeah. Have you ever tried that? Have you gotten it to work?
I've never wanted to do it.
Yeah, it's never worked for me when I've tried it. So
the demo that we saw at E3, where you're watching Game of Thrones and suddenly you have the behind-the-scenes map stuff, was the best case usage for that, and I don't see myself using that.
I actually have used it when I was playing Halo 4 multiplayer, and I would log into Waypoint on SmartGlass so I could look at my stats and see how I was doing. You get a kind of more detailed stats view than you do with the default on screen, and you can also look at it while maps are loading and stuff like that. So that was kind of nice. Let's talk about. Well, there's a few issues. So iconography is a little bit weird in Windows Phone 8. I've had a problem with this with Windows Phone 7 as well. Let's say you're in the Mail app. I'm going to open Mail. Now, we have 4 buttons along the bottom.
Yeah.
This one is clearly search.
Yes, search through Mail.
This one's clearly refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what that one is. Not sure what that one is.
Plus means
probably a new mail?
Yeah, new mail.
But it could mean a new contact. Sometimes it's not a plus sign there. I don't know why. This is so this is the edit view. In iOS you get this by tapping the edit button. In Android you
so this is a problem with all mobile operating systems iconography. Even in iOS, if you're not familiar with it, the edit button is the square with an arrow send to.
There are better icons than others sometimes. Some OSs do
right
a better
there it
job
says
with icons.
it tells you new
So this
select.
is the thing I like
search.
is you hit the button, it pops up, it tells you what it is. When you're looking,
but you have
at
to know to hit the 3 ellipses. On the
exactly.
bottom right.
Well, it means more.
How do you know that?
Well, ellipses mean more in the English language.
Okay.
The further settings that are beyond that are in there as well. I also Maps was kind of gnarly. I'll show you this one. These guys are incomprehensible. Like the Mail ones were okay.
Bullseye.
What's
arrow?
the bullseye?
Arrow hits number 2 hits the 3.
Okay.
And the first one is like TPs.
Does that takes you to your house? So this is local. This is the local search stuff. This one is nav.
Oh, it's not a compass. It's not
directions.
Orient. I would have guessed orient.
That's what I thought. This one is take you to your current location, and the other one's search. You were right on that. And of course, you can always hit the ellipses to get the descriptions, but like these are terrible icons. I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's just kind of nitpicky small stuff. I don't know. App selection is a little bit off still. It's still relatively new. People who had Windows Phone 7.5 apps haven't necessarily updated them like, well, Spotify, for example.
Yeah, because I have Spotify on Windows Phone 7.5.
It's right there. We just used it.
Yep.
It doesn't work here.
No Spotify.
No.
I thought Microsoft made a big deal in that launch event that they had 70% of all the apps.
They have 46
apps.
of the top 50 apps. And they announced that they were getting Pandora. Hey, Norm.
I saw
Guess
Pandora
what?
in Apps and Games. Radio blog.
Guess what?
Oh, that's
This
sad.
is by the developer Buy App to Donate. And then this other one called Pandora is by SureSoft Solutions. Now, I don't want to alarm you, but this is one of my problems with the Windows app stores in general, is that there are a lot of weird apps that look like they're first-party apps made by some random person that just is using the name, and they don't block that. They don't
Is there
stop
an
that.
Uber app?
For example, the YouTube downloader. It's $2.50. It's by Anko Software.
Yeah. And the actual YouTube app?
Yeah, the actual YouTube app is just a web front end made by Microsoft that takes you into IE straight at YouTube.
Awesome.
It's like that kind of stuff adds a level of jankiness that you don't want from an app store, because the reason you buy into a closed ecosystem is to feel safe and protected from scams and bad apps and stuff like that. It's skeezy. I think they should fix that problem.
All right.
You want to look at some specific apps? Twitter is the same design as it was before. It's faster. It doesn't have the bad load times that it had before. I think that's actually quite good. I don't really use Facebook very much, so I mean, you tell me what you think about the Facebook app. I may not. Oh no, I've signed in. That's good. So yeah, it has. Here's our.
Yeah, I think it looks
I mean,
fine.
it looks nice.
And you have the not only do you have this the scheme where it's you scroll left and up and down, but having those buttons on the top right also really help.
It does help a ton. Gina actually liked this better than when she used it.
Let's try to guess what those bottom 4
Oh, you want to play that game? Okay.
Okay, so the first one is write a message, post a new post. It's gotta be. Second one's got to be take a picture.
Is it a message or a post? Those are two different things.
I think that's create a post.
Okay.
And second one, I think it's take a picture.
Okay.
Third one is, I don't know. I'm going to say places because that's likely what Facebook wants to push.
Okay.
And the fourth one's refresh.
That's okay. So you got add. I think that's for any piece of content.
Okay.
We can see. Nope, that's just a status post.
Okay. What's on your mind?
What is on your
caps.
mind?
And the second one is.
Second one is take a picture. You were right.
Okay. Take a photo.
Check in.
Yep. So it's like their Foursquare.
Yep.
Place. Yeah. It's
and more. But it's. I mean, they did a nice job with this. Facebook obviously has a partnership with Microsoft, so that's good. And stuff like the Facebook events show up on your calendar in calendars, stuff like that. All that's really integrated nicely. That's not as novel a feature as it was 2 years ago when Windows Phone 7.5 was new. Do you want to look at Audio? That's another kind of high profile.
So they have
app.
Audio, but no Spotify.
No Spotify, no Pandora yet. Although Pandora is coming. So this is an older app, so you can see there's a little bit of a bar on top because it doesn't know quite what to do with the extra aspect ratio, but it's resizing appropriately. So I mean, you can go in here and see your rotation stuff. It looks like a Metro app, right? Which to me, if you like Metro apps, it looks great to you, I'm sure. I'm going to go look at new releases. Here's the stuff that came out this week. I mean, these apps, if you're familiar with Windows Phone 7.5 apps, they're more or less the same.
Yeah.
And it seems like, depending on what you use to develop the app in the first place, bringing it over to Windows Phone 8 might be as easy as recompiling it and re-releasing it, or it may require more involved work than that.
So that's Windows Phone 8. All in all, it's not too much different than Windows Phone 7.5. Most of the changes happen in the back end. The new top-level features, some are useful, some not so much. Like
I mean, there's a lot of cosmetic stuff, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We should talk about Windows Phone 7.8 a little bit.
Yeah, so Microsoft has promised for people who own phones like this Samsung Focus who have Windows 7.5 on it, if they want to get all the new hotness, the most they can get is this stopgap called Windows Phone 7.8, which Microsoft has actually not released yet.
Yeah, it's going to be out early next year. It's mostly cosmetic changes. So they've done things like add the smaller icon size. They've added more colors to the themes. The lock screen wallpaper is now Bing wallpaper, so you can have the live wallpaper on the lock screen if you want. It's not a huge deal. I would not be excited about it. You still won't be able to run Windows Phone 8 apps on Windows Phone 7.8. So that means as people start supporting Windows Phone 8 more, Windows Phone 7 users are going to get left behind, which is unfortunate. The good news is these phones are much less expensive than iPhones and high-end iPhone and Android phones.
Some of the phones start at $50 or $100 on a 2-year contract, and a bunch of them are out now. And like even this pre-production model, this HTC 8X, it looks and feels like a great phone.
Yeah, it's been much more stable than say the production Surface was. So I think that this is a much more mature after going from using the Surface for a while to using this is a much more mature platform. Even though they've done some big behind the scenes changes, it's much more usable than the Surface is. And I think because it's on a phone rather than a tablet, you're not expecting to do as much with it, which is good. I should also mention, we didn't talk about this at all. It has Office and OneNote on it. So if Office is important to you, if OneNote is important to you, they're here and you can use them. And I mean, people think they're quite
Excel,
good.
Word.
Yeah. It's integrated with SkyDrive pretty closely. I don't really use SkyDrive. I don't know if the Dropbox app is out yet. The last time I looked, it wasn't. But you can do some hacks to get SkyDrive and Dropbox working together, which is, I think, an acceptable stopgap. The SkyDrive implementation seems to be quite good and is tightly integrated with everything that uses the share contract. So anything that you can share out of, you can put onto SkyDrive, which is nice. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's Windows Phone 8.
This is it, Windows Phone 8.
Yep.
I like it. I mean, I'm still not changing from iOS. A couple of things to note. There's no Verizon or Sprint SKUs yet. That stuff seems to be coming soon.
All AT&T.
It's all I think T-Mobile as well. So it's all GSM phones so far. But they're, like you said, they're really inexpensive. You can get a low-end phone for $0 down. Yeah. You're going to pay for the data plan that you would pay with any other smartphone, which you should be aware of. And even the high-end phones start at $99.
The high-end ones are the ones to go with, though.
Yeah, if you're going to buy a Windows Phone 8 phone, I would assume that the same upgrade path is going to happen as before. So you're going to have a 2.5 year life cycle for this OS, and the hardware may change incrementally during that time period, but it's not going to make any substantial leaps and bounds in that 2 years. So if you're going to buy in and get on a 2-year contract, do it now. Don't wait 6 months or a year and then have a 1-year shelf life on your phone.
Plus, those T-Mobile contracts are relatively cheap compared to AT&T ones.
Yeah, so if you want a cheap data plan, T-Mobile's great. You won't get the LTE, but I don't think most of these phones are LTE anyway. So the Nokia is, this one is, but the lower ones aren't. So that'll do it for Windows Phone 8. I think it's good. Are you excited?
I'm not going to transition over, but yeah, I think it's a much better phone than this one. And this wasn't bad either.
Yeah, well, that aged poorly, I think, whereas this maybe hasn't. So for Test, I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
See you guys later.
Bye.